Good morning. Good morning, everybody. We are on time, but I see that many people are still in the process of connecting with some questions about connecting using Chrome or Edge or Safari. So good luck to everyone. But I see that many people are already online and connected. So welcome to the fifth ASTP Europe Forum. I shall start maybe by welcoming you and reminding that this forum is actually a very open discussion between our knowledge transfer community and the European Commission. So I have to give a big thanks to the members and the heads of several units and councils of the European Commission who agreed to participate not only today, but all along the very continuous exchange process we have with the European Commission. So we are very glad to see that, of course, we are representing the KT community, and we are a very important stakeholder for the questions of innovation and knowledge transfer. But we are also acting as partners with the European Commission, and this is very valuable for us. Maybe some can remind us also for the speakers. Today, I mean, many of our members, so many representatives of the KT community joined, but I would like to remind that ASTP actually gathers more than 1,400 members, amongst which are many TTOs, of course. So that represents actually several thousand of TTO people and KT professionals coming from 44 countries. So this is very important to see again that we actually represent a very wide community in Europe and beyond. So 44 countries, and we have also a very valuable committee within ASTP, gathering more than 30, that's actually 34 national associations for knowledge transfer and research valorization. So this is also a very powerful tool to get in contact with the different member states and the members of the community. All right, so today we are going to talk about knowledge valorization, policies, innovation. And for those of you who are not so familiar with that and with the recent European initiatives in these matters, we will have a representative from different councils. I mentioned that, ERC, EIC, and we have also two units from the DG Research and Innovation. And these units are dedicated to one of them valorization, I would say, and the other one innovation. And if we cross these topics, actually, we will find again all the issues about intellectual property. So everything will be presented in more details by our dear speakers today. And I would like also to remind you that ASTP has launched a newsletter dedicated to the European issues. So I hope you do receive well this newsletter. So I think we are now number 2, and this is the second edition of this new newsletter. So thanks a lot for the team creating this newsletter, and I think this is full of very valuable and very useful information about the European initiatives. And I would like also to remind you that we have a dedicated team working about these European topics. And we have also, we are lucky also to welcome our Vice President at ASTP in charge of the European matters. And so now I just hand it over to Smilka, please. Thank you.
Hi, hello everyone. I would like to greet you. Thank you, Christoph, for your introduction. And it's my pleasure today to lead you through this partnering event where European Commission and ASTP share some very interesting topics from the latest developments in knowledge valorization with the technology transfer professionals, all of you that you are here, and of course the others, the whole interested community. Now we will move on with the presentations by the colleagues from the European agencies and the Commission. But before we start, I would just like to ask you kindly to pose your questions in the Q&A section, and the speakers will answer to them after their presentations. Thank you. So first, our first speaker is Yanis Gias. I don't know if Yanis, are you here somewhere? I will shortly introduce Yanis, who will talk about the recent developments in EU knowledge valorization policies. So Yanis is a deputy head of unit for valorization policies and IPR. This unit is actually the closest one to the ASTP activities and the technology transfer communities. And it is regular partner in all of our forums that we have already 4 of them. Every 6 months we organize EU forums because we saw how important it is, this relationship with the stakeholders there and our community. Last week, they organized very successful Knowledge Valorization Week, where the best practices from all over Europe were presented. In addition, the last day was dedicated to trainings in the field of IPR and knowledge valorization. I hope that many of you probably participated in at least some of the sessions. Recently, the unit have been working on the policy documents and generated guiding principles for knowledge valorization. I'm almost sure that all of you at least heard about it, aiming to maximize the transformation of research and innovation results into solutions, which was adopted by the European Council at the end of last year in December. The unit also issued 2 codes of practice for its implementation in practice, Code of Practice on Intellectual Assets Management, and the Code of Practice on Standardization. Now they are working on the preparation of more codes. So Mr. Sagias will tell us about the recent developments in their preparation and other activities of the unit. So please, Yanis, I hope you are here, and please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me now? And can you see me?
Yes, fine.
All right, great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Great. Thank you also for reallocating my session today and the slot so I can be with you. And I will share my screen, and I'll just go into the. Is it visible now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So, thank you very much for the nice introduction, and I think that you placed very well what we are doing in the unit and what we are trying to push forward for 2023. And this is I would say it's a regular update with the latest developments and where we stand with knowledge valorization and what we're trying to achieve. So, briefly, I will go through the current policy, the current policy, let's say, context. And as you know, we have the guiding principles for knowledge valorization, which were adopted as council recommendations in December 2022. And we have the 2 codes of practice on intellectual asset management and on standardization, which were adopted as Commission recommendations, coming after the guiding principles as ways to implement these guiding principles. And more codes of practice, of course, are on the way, and I will, of course, speak about them in my presentation. What is important here to mention is that for ERA, as you see in the slide, it's ERA Action 7. For ERA and ERA Forum, this action is considered complete. We don't share the same approach, to be honest, because we don't think that just issuing a recommendation, we're done with our work. Actually, we believe that the work actually starts then. You issue a recommendation, it's a council recommendation, it's a member state's recommendation. So I guess the work is how to implement them and how to make sure that we valorize and create more value from the knowledge that we generate from the R&I investment. So the codes of practice come and help in making more value out of the knowledge, and we try to show how at least the guiding principles for knowledge valorization can be implemented. First, the code of practice on intellectual asset management. You know it very well, I think. I think that you have participated. Lots of you actually hold the pens behind this code. And just a short, brief review of what we did. We had the first community of practice back in January 2022, more than 200 members, a very active drafting team. we co-created the code. We reached the point that very valid recommendations were actually put down in the draft code in summer 2022. We identified a lot of best practices, and then we went for consultations. And of course, we passed through the ERA forum consultation, and then the inter-service consultation, which reached for the adoption in the beginning of March 2023. So this code is available. And I think that this code actually generates a lot of value, because we are discussing this code in various places and fora. And the feedback we're getting is that, okay, some of the recommendations might be high level, but some others are really down to the practice, really hands-on. And just a small reminder, we have three major chapters there: how to establish a strategy for intellectual asset management, and how we have to think about our intellectual assets way before anything else, or at least at the same time that we have the research or innovation idea, we start thinking also of how to manage our results, and managing the assets in joint activities. When we're talking also about Horizon, we're talking about collaborative projects. So it is very important that we have the right provisions and the right agreements at place. And then, of course, after clarifying ownership and who does what and what we want to do, just bring the results towards the market or to the society. But of course, talking to you, it's like preaching the converted. I mean, you already know that you do that much better than Commission will ever do. But it's important just to state once more that for us, it is really important to have such kind of tools, such kind of guidance documents as close as possible to communities like yours. The other code that we have available, Code of Practice on Standardization. And here, I think that there was a bit of, because I had the chance to discuss also with some of you, and also I had some questions from the Prague event that we had for the first event on the awareness raising campaign for knowledge valorization, is that do we expect technology transfer offices and officers and knowledge transfer offices to be also the standardization office of an institution? Actually not. This code of practice is made to demonstrate first that there is a lot of value in creating something commonly accepted. So let's not talk about standards in general, but let's try to keep in mind that we're talking about something common. So, and I think that your daily work basically proves that you're working already on that. You're helping people following specific, let's say, guidelines, rules, have common understanding of things, and you're helping developing common understanding, common specifications, common ways of working. And this is basically the code of practice for standardization, which eventually might lead to the revision of existing standards or the creation of new, especially now that we're moving very fast in the technological fields. So how this code came into practice, a bit more different than the other code, because we were kind of mandated from the European standardization strategy to tap on the unexploited potential of the pre-normative research work, and to make these two worlds, these two strands of work, actually the standardization activities and the R&I activities, to have these lines cross a bit with each other, because they run in parallel and they have a lot of value if we cross them, but we don't cross them enough, or I would say often. So we wanted to understand what's happening with Horizon beneficiaries. First of all, we tried to see which projects are actively involved in standardization activities. Then we did the scoping study, and we created a working group with the members of this study, with a community that had standard development organizations, R&I beneficiaries, practitioners. And then we had the first draft back in May 2022, public consultation, and then internal consultation and final adoption. And then we have a code. As I said, this code tries to bring standardization, this idea of creating standards or common specifications or common ways of working closer to the researchers. And making stronger links between the research innovation community and standardization community. And we need to provide some guidance to 3 different actors: higher education institutions, project partners, researchers, innovators, businesses, and of course, policymakers and standard development organizations. So this is the code of practice on standardization. And I think that it is a code that deserves to be seen. And of course, it's not to push one more thing on the technology transfer offices, but it's certainly something that can help understand what's the value behind standardization. We have these nice links for any other information about the codes, about the guiding principles and the fact sheets and everything that is actually happening around the codes. And as I said, we have an awareness raising campaign. I have a couple of slides on that about what we're trying to do and increase the knowledge and disseminate this knowledge to the member states through national events organized by the member states, that we present, the member states present the guiding principles and what it means for them. And as Commission, we go there and we present the Commission recommendations, the 2 codes, and try also to explain also through trainings how the codes can be used. And that's the awareness raising campaign, which I just mentioned. So the awareness raising campaign is not only the events, it's a bigger thing. So it's a social media presence, is a whole communication pack that what we want to push, that we put these specific logos, these specific, let's say, banners everywhere. We try to occupy commissioners' social media accounts or the corporate social media accounts with our campaign. But of course, a core element is the Tour de Capital, the events that we organize with member states, and we're all throughout Europe. We had the first one in Czech Republic in 18th of April with very, very good success and very nice discussions about the way forward and what all these means in a national context. The first result, and I think that we have discussed also with on the spot, is that there is a call now, and I know that there are people around us that can correct me if I say something wrong. There's a call that will take place of almost 40 million euros that will include knowledge valorization, at least in some ways. So somehow it will change the way that member states will call for projects and also the way that these projects will be evaluated. So 2 more events now are coming up in June, one in Vilnius and one in Madrid. And of course, we will have stakeholders event organized by the Commission in Brussels. One will be in October, the first one. We think that the second one will also be the final one will also be in October next year, or around that, autumn next year, as a closing event. But the middle event, probably we can organize it somewhere else except Brussels. And of course, what we try to do is not only to have once-off events, but also to collect feedback, if possible, of what is happening afterwards, what kind of things, what kind of initiatives and policies actually they're being triggered in the member states that we can collect, and then we can have an overview of the implementation of the guiding principles. And now, what we are doing currently with the new codes of practice. As I said, the idea is to have the guiding principles for knowledge valorization. This is a council recommendation, and what we believe that we should provide is to have at least one tool, one guidance document per valorization channel. The valorization channels that have been identified, they're the same, and they're included in the new era policy documents, but also in the policy review that we did back in 2020. We have standardization, intellectual asset management, we have industry academia collaboration, we have citizen engagement, we have science for policy and valorization through policy making. And all of these channels deserve at least one tool, and the Commission owes to provide at least one tool, and also projects through the Horizon Europe work program to demonstrate how this valorization can happen. The development of these codes follow pretty much the same practice as we did with the Code of Practice on Intellectual Asset Management. So call for expression of interest to participate in a community of practice, establishing a community of practice with stakeholders. This community of practice will prepare the code, will prepare and will provide valid best practices and recommendations to be included in the code. That draft will be refined within the community, and then it will be submitted to the ERA Forum consultation September and October this year. Then, after the ERA Forum, let's say, agreement, we will go to the internal consultation with the rest of the Commission services, normally by the end of the year, and we expect to have the adoption by the Commission with all the process done in Q1 2024. But the idea is that we have to be active as a community of practice, very active, I would say, until June 2023, because I think that the biggest part of the work happens now, takes place now, and then it's just consultation that refines the document. Of course, during the consultation, the communities of practice act as checks and balances. Everything that is prepared after the consultations comes back to the community in order for the community to see and understand if these things go the way we have planned it, the way we have thought about it, and the way that we wanted to have the code. And of course, there's a dedicated page in the knowledge valorization platform, and then you can always see if I'm not sure if I think the links to the surveys that will allow you entrance to the communities are not available anymore for the community of practice for the industry-academia collaboration. And I think tomorrow is the last day for the citizen engagement community of practice. But you can always submit a best practice. You can always provide input to these communities. So more specifically, for the industry-academia collaboration, that is something that you know very well, and this is, seeing the response and the willingness of your community to participate in this code of practice demonstrates that it's something that it's always high in the agenda, and it's not a surprise for me, but it's very high in the agenda of the commissioner. You will, of course, tell me, okay, we are in 2023. It's now that the commissioner has this high in her agenda. Well, better late than never. And I think it's very important that she brings that now to the summit of European universities and education. And it's one of the major elements that she also brings to the Swedish presidency events in June. So industry-academia collaboration somehow takes a new spin, and it's deeply rooted also into the new European innovation agenda. So it was recognized as one of the key elements to succeed in more innovation in the Union. And I'm sure that you've seen this slide before. There's a different trend, and there are different ways now to do this collaboration between industry and academia. And we have to start exploring all this, see what's the landscape, and try to map it in this code of practice. So the objectives are very clear. It's a way to implement the guiding principles, provide recommendations on industry-academia collaboration for knowledge valorization, see all these novel models of collaboration, what are going on with digital platforms and co-creation models, and then just keep always in mind that the knowledge valorization that needs to take place in the Union needs to be supported and helped by this code. And of course, the community of practice, as I said before, the members will contribute by defining topics, subtopics, and recommendations, share their expertise and best practices, and also identify anything else that it's missing currently, and we need to put it back in the code, because these codes will be there for some time. So we need to make sure that we will be inclusive enough so these codes can be valid for some years ahead of us. And of course, always try to have the codes addressing as many as possible in the community. So who joined the community? More than 210 participants, 25 member states and 11 other countries. And this is pretty much the type of organizations of the participants. I will share, of course, this presentation with you, so you will have all the numbers. I mean, the biggest part is, as you see, universities and public research organizations, but you have also participants coming from civil society. You have big companies, you have SMEs, of course, intermediaries. So it's really a nice representation in the community. I was asked from my colleague Iro Erola, that runs this community of practice, leads the work with the rest of the team in the unit, to remind you, that's why it is in red here, that there is a survey on recommendations, and it's open until the 15th of May, and you're more than welcome to reply on this survey and provide some recommendations. This is the timeline. It seems tight, the timeline, and it seems tight because normally all of the things that we need to plan, especially when it comes to official commission documents like a commission recommendation, needs to be very well planned in time, and of course in advance of the electoral year 2024. So you can imagine, although we could have some luxury of time, since we have already 2 codes available, because 2024 will be a year of election. Now we really need to make sure that we deliver everything, and we have something which we are happy with within 2023, and we leave just the process of the adoption for 2024. That's the list of areas that have been identified. So you can see co-creation methods, metrics, indicators, strategic considerations at organizational level, behavior and motivation, incentives. All of these are the areas that have been identified that should be in the code and should receive recommendations from the community. And now, being aware also of the time, I will say a couple of words for the community of practice for the citizen engagement, which I'm involved personally in this community of practice. This community of practice, again, has pretty much the same objectives. The idea here is to see what kind of novel approaches exist to have citizens being engaged within the processes of knowledge creation and value creation from knowledge, and how this value can return back to the society. So everybody speaks also about citizen engagement. You see probably the events organized at the highest level in the Commission about the future of Europe, and how we can have citizens conferences and receive feedback from citizens and see what is happening at EU level. Then you see the various platforms of citizens organizations, citizen engagement, how to address local or regional problems and how to find solutions. So the idea there is to find all these people and see all these platforms of exchanging and engaging citizens, and see how we can provide them tools in doing it more systematically and more structured, in a way that they can benefit from, let's say, local academia or researchers that want to engage themselves with the society. So it is a huge subject, I would say, but in order not to be lost and not to be also cross past the limits of other domains like citizen science, for example, or the democratic approaches, this is something around creation of knowledge that we have from research and innovation. So it's basically what we can create with investment in research and innovation, and the knowledge we get out of it, how the citizens can actually first participate in that, but secondly benefit from that in a way that is visible for them. So again, the same role of the community: define topics, subtopics, provide recommendations, expertise and best practices, and of course disseminate everything around this community and the code, and always keep in mind that we need to support the implementation of the guiding principles. And of course, in this community, we have from the beginning, the community of practice for the industry academia collaboration, you decided within the community who is going to be the pen holder, who will draft and who will lead actually the drafting work of the community. here there is a core group which was defined from the survey that we issued with expression of interest, and we had people expressing their interest not only to participate in the community but also participate in this core group, which actually plays the role of the pen holder, and they are responsible of taking the feedback from the whole community, filter them, process them, and then come back in meetings with the Commission and the community of practice and present. So pretty much the same thing, just the idea that this core group existed from the beginning and it was not formed during the processes of the community. And here, who joined 125 members from 21 member states and 6 other countries. These are the countries, and we believe that we could have done a bit better with the member states. As you see, it's 21. I was expecting, when it comes to citizens, to be all member states interested, but of course it's a personal thing. It's an expression of interest for a community. It's not official appointments from the countries. And these are the organizations. As you see, mostly we have people coming from universities, and then of course civil society organizations, but we have also private companies, public research organization, any associations that can have members which are interested in the subject. And the other, we have here laboratories, joint stock consortiums, we have independent researchers, even a museum actually was interested. And the code is for, so far we have seen that the code is for citizens, researchers, policymakers, businesses, intermediaries, and surprisingly, 7% says that it's all entities of quadruple helix framework. So it seems that this code is quite wide. That's why we believe that the community of practice will help us keep things narrow and focused. That's the work plan for that code. I put in red where exactly we are now. We are in May, and we have draft inputs to areas and subtopics. It's exactly the same thing as the other community. And by 17th of May, we expect any input for recommendations according to the areas that have been identified. And the idea is also to have the work done until the end of June. Here is, I think I had this slide before, is a dedicated web page for the two codes. Sorry for the repetition of the slide, but yeah, it's important also to know where to find all the information. And with this, I finish the presentation, and I thank you for your time. And I'm ready to take any questions.
Thank you, Yanis. I think it was really very informative and clarified some things about these codes of practice, what they are all about, and why do we really need that. So I'm now opening the discussion, we are open for your questions if there are any. I don't see any in the Q&A section. I also don't see any in the chat. However, could you please? No, it's not a question. So
there was a request for the link for the survey, and I put it. I hope I got it right. It was the link for the survey about citizen involvement in engagement for knowledge visualization, I think.
Yeah, that's the link, and it will be open until tomorrow. Yeah, because members are coming, but it's a bit awkward when someone comes in a bit later and there's already been a discussion about the recommendations, that there's a catch up to be done. The idea also is to and I think that you have seen that we extended specific invitations to organizations that we believe that should be in the communities, and we were quite successful with them, but not with all of them. So if they would like to do us the favor and join a bit later, okay, we will say yes. But in general, just to have a link open, I think afterwards will be with invitation. So it will be an email to us in our functional mailbox, and we will send the link for joining the community.
Okay, Thank you. Any other questions? No, I have a one, actually again, but maybe you can repeat. How will you ensure the implementation, or what will you do to improve implementation of these principles and codes in all the countries, especially in the widening countries, because we really need some push from the European Commission in order to implement more and
Yeah.
enhance actually technology transfer.
Yes. I think that this is a valid question and it comes up again and again. So, Council recommendations and Commission recommendations are soft law, really soft policy documents that do not impose something on member states and does not have direct budget implications with their application and translation into the national context. In that sense, we cannot force something. What we try to do is to let everybody know that this is something very important, and then see, particularly through the awareness raising campaign, that we visit all member states to see what are the particularities of each country and see whether, for example, we can use the guiding principles we can use knowledge valorization as an element in structural funds, in the recovery and resilience funds, in cohesion funds that could be used locally or regionally, nationally, in order to help the implementation of the guiding principles. And I think that that was quite evident, at least in the first event in Czech Republic, that there is the possibility to include knowledge valorization into the national operational programs that could help implementation with of European but also national funds. And that's one thing. The idea, because again and again it comes up, we try to push certain things into the work program of Horizon, at least to have one more projects demonstrating how this can be done. And some of these projects is service delivery. We cannot provide funds, but we can provide services to the community. So this is the second thing that we try to do. And a third thing that is coming up is whether we can work closer with the colleagues in the DG Reform. And I know that DG Reform is quite active with their fund with technical assistance, and I know that there are specific requests from the member states, not necessarily widening countries. I mean, all member states can use DG Reform in supporting and having funds in supporting specific reform. Recent example is the technology transfer network that is being reorganized in Spain. There was a specific study that was done. It was given through the Commission, I think, to OECD. You have a huge study there, and this study's findings were translated in a national initiative. And Spain now has a new law. I would say it's a new policy action on technology transfer, and that will be celebrated in their event in 13th of June. So there are ways to mobilize implementation arms and funds to do something locally. But I think it varies from country to country.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. There is a question in the chat from Hannah. Dear Ioannis, thank you for the presentation. Following up on the Prague awareness raising event, how would you see the role of NAC for the future events? Should we mobilize the local communities, or do you see it more at a high level? Thanks, Hannah. As you know, but maybe for the audience, NAC is National Association Advisory Committee within the ASTP that gathers networks from the technology transfer offices from all the countries. So please.
Yeah. Thank you, Hannah. And once again, thank you for the nice event in Prague. I believe that indeed we have to activate everybody locally. I mean, the high level thing is the national event itself. Okay, it takes place, it's once. But then what? I think that we have to activate anything locally in order to continue the work and try piece by piece to implement the guiding principles on the ground. So any help on that and any feedback also from this activity will be more than welcome.
Thanks. There is another question from Julien Chicot. Maybe a very specific question. There it is. What is the foreseen role of the ERA Action 7 subgroups in the preparation of the future knowledge valorization policies?
I think that we don't have any subgroup anymore. We had an ERA forum, an ERA Action 7 subgroup with member states to prepare the guiding principles. But since then, we were never granted from the ERA forum another subgroup. And the ERA forum wanted to minimize the number of subgroups. And they thought that, okay, you are very successful, you don't need a subgroup. So we have the communities of practice, and we have the network of people like you around to work, but not formally appointed as ERA forum subgroup.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if Julian was asking the future of Action 7, because there will not be continuation of Action 7 in the new ERA, because there's ERA 25-27 now that is being discussed. So if that's your question, Julian, no, the Action 7 stops, and it's the implementation that takes place. So we will focus on the implementation of the Action 7 rather than making a new Action 7.
Do you know when this ERA will be published?
It's been discussed internally. It's been discussed also in the ERA forum. I believe that by the end of this year, we will have a concrete plan of the new ERA 25-27.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? There's just a comment from Hannah, but nothing else. If there are no more questions, we would like to thank you, Yanis, for joining us and to find time and not to cancel, but just move a little bit your talk. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for that. It really made things much, much easier for me today. Thank you. And have a nice continuation.
Yeah.
And see you, some of you, face to face soon in other events.
Yeah, sure. We'll continue our collaboration. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, we'll go further now. We are going to hear Laura Pontilla. Laura is an experienced policy advisor at the Executive Agency of the European Research Council, where she performs strategic policy analysis on the links between frontier research, innovation, and economic growth, and supports the ERC Scientific Council in their relations and dialogue with industry. Today, Laura will present the results of the recent study they made, proving that the frontier research is actually the drive of the European innovation. I couldn't agree more. So please, Laura, we are keen to hear your presentation. The floor is
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Let me try to share now. So as I was nicely introduced, my name is Laura Pontilla and I'm at the European Research Council. And I'm looking into how frontier research that the ERC is funding can have an impact on society, on economy, on growth, on innovation, and things like that. Please, next slide. So as a reminder, probably you have seen this slide last year when I made another presentation to you, but just as a reminder, it's very important to see that the primary objective of the ERC funding is the creation of radical new knowledge. And the idea is really to fund research which is goes beyond the existing knowledge, is creating advances in knowledge, in research, and creates breakthroughs. So it's fundamental research, basic research, mainly done in academia. and the successes of what we are funding is actually measured by publications. Basically, we are measuring the scientific impact of this breakthrough and new knowledge created by ERC funded research. So yes, this is the scientific impact, but hopefully some of this research on the long term, on the medium long term, can also have an impact on which goes beyond the impact on science, so which has an impact on society and economic benefits. And this is what we are trying to monitor and measure. As I already showed you last year, we know that 1 in 10 of ERC grantees have either created a company or transferred their knowledge or the results of the research to existing companies. What we are trying to see now is how all of this is on the long term have an impact on innovation, and we do it in 2 stages, and this is what I will present later or now. Can you please go to the next slide? As a summary of what I presented last year, so the impact beyond science, we can measure it 2 ways. One is the direct way, and this is a direct impact, and that's exactly counting, if you want, and looking into the startups which are created directly out of an ERC funded project, or the direct transfer of technology, of research results from the research group to an existing company. And these are the data that I showed you last year. We have now a database of around 400 startups created by ERC grantees. We are following them. We are trying to get more and more information. We really work on making this database available publicly. So yes, this is the direct way. Another way to look into this direct way is also, and this is something that I plan to do now, is to look into the transfer of the technology, of the knowledge, and see where this transfer goes. We know that a certain number of our grantees have transferred in a way or another through licensing or other ways their knowledge, but it's interesting to see where this will be going to follow up the pathway to innovation. Next slide, please. This goes, okay, that's okay, fine. So the other way to measure the impact beyond science, it's much more long term, and it's not direct. It's much more, we are not measuring an impact, we are measuring mainly an influence on the development of the innovations. How can we do that? We decided to do in 2 ways. First of all, we tried to find out whether the research which is funded by the ERC and it's then published in scientific publication, we tried to measure how much of this is cited in patents by third parties. So basically in the part of the patent, which is the non-patent literature, we want to see if the research acknowledging ERC funding is actually cited in these patents. And then the idea is then when we have done that, we will have a taxonomy of technologies that are sort of or technological inventions, which are sort of inspired by ERC funded research. And then the next step will be to put together all these various technologies as creating or developing a certain innovation, because an innovation is not directly coming out from a research. It's really a complex system of many inputs, and some of these inputs could come out from this technology inspired by the ERC. And so we will find out at that point whether ERC funded research has this influence. So now I present the results of what we have done so far. So basically, like the drunk man looking for the key of the house under the light, what we have is patents and publications. So the idea is let's use these to make our investigation. So we have asked and contracted researchers from the University of Bologna together with the University of Bruno Kessler in Trento to make this analysis for us. And so what they did, they tried to measure if, how, and to what extent new discoveries in scientific publication acknowledging ERC-inspired inventions are described in new patents. So here is the way they've done it. So basically, we gave them all the ERC research grants granted in FP7 and part of Horizon 2020. So we took a bit of time lag between the publication. So we stopped in the first 2 years of Horizon 2020. And after various cleanings, they have identified 6,671 grants. And then we know that for all these grants, there are publications public in scientific publications, which are actually acknowledging the grants. And then we know, and we found out, and thanks to the researcher, we found out all the patents that are actually citing these publications. So basically, you see the step 2 is the scientific impact, as I mentioned before, so the publication. And then we are trying to count the patents that are citing this scientific publication to sort of measure the influence on inventions. Next slide, please. So this study went on in last year, and we presented the results to the Scientific Council in December last year, and the report is available on our homepage. And the main result that came out are quite surprising, because we had more than 44% of ERC grants generated research which is subsequently cited by patent application, which are filed by firms and institutions all over the world. It's surprising because, yes, as I said, the funding is basic research. We don't have any particular mission, any theme. It's completely bottom up. Researchers are researching what their curiosity suggests them to research, but still 44% of these grants generate research cited in patents, inspiring, therefore, technological inventions. It's interesting to see that 50% of these patent applications are actually coming from firms, which means that, the other potential applicants are the researchers themselves, their host institutions, some research organizations. But here it really comes out that companies are actually interested in patenting based on this research. We are funding all areas of research: life science and physical science, engineering, and also social science and humanities. It comes out that the majority of the projects cited in patent application come from life science, which also includes medicine and biotechnology and this type of research. Followed also by physical science and engineering. And not surprisingly, the research coming from social science and humanities is less cited in patents. Obviously, when we talk about history, archaeology, and things like that, we don't expect that to be so much cited in technological inventions. We have seen that the patents, the technologies, or the inventions that are citing ERC research are predominantly in fields which are closer to the frontier of science. So not so much in science which is already mature, or sorry, in technology which is already mature or particularly advanced towards the market. So they're really influencing, ERC research is mainly influencing completely new technologies. And they are also cited in industry with greater science base and research orientation. And these are like biotechnology, pharmaceutical, computer technology, organic fine chemistry, measurement, and semiconductors. And in particular, the researchers also looked at a couple of areas or technologies which are of interest for the entire world at the moment, and also for EU policies, which are technologies which have an impact on climate change and on the digital transformation. And we see that there is a clear positive impact of the ERC funded research in these technologies. Next, please. Yes, down here you see there is a link to the report published on our homepage, so you can, when you have the slides, you can, if you want, look at the report itself. So just yes, next, please. Yes. So here you see basically what I've already told you before. You can see that out of all these projects funded by the ERC. You see how many of them have been cited by a patent application, and therefore also in percentage. This is what I told you before, mainly in life science and less in social science and humanities. You see in the footnote that I put under this table, this is important because I repeat, I mean, we are looking here at patent applications, but in the report, there are also analysis of granted patents. And even if we look at granted patents, we see that the share of projects cited by at least one granted patent is 34.22%. So of course, the analysis could be different. Most of the analysis is on patent application, but even on granted patents, there is quite a large percentage, and we could go further in analyzing the granted patents, and this is also done in the report. Next, please. Here is what I told you before. You see that we are looking into who are the applicants of this patent citing ERC research, and you see big numbers here. And could you click, please? There is yes, that around 50% of the patent application, they come from firm. We made a similar analysis also for the patents that are these are patents, as I said, from cited by sorry, this is the patents which were found in PatStat database. Then we could also, and we did look at the patents that are done by the researchers themselves. So it's self-declared patents, and in this case the result is quite different. So the self-reported patents by the researchers themselves are mainly cited in patents which are on patents application which are from university or research institute. This is not a big surprise, but this is also an interesting result. Next, please. So it's interesting to see, I don't know how much you can see it in this slide, but this is the list of the top 20 firms that are the patent applicants for this patent citing ERC funded research. And you see here some of the very big ones. You see IBM, Microsoft, AT&T, Philips, Google, Intel, Samsung. They are the big ones. They are international. They are not only Europeans, and they, in their patent application, they refer to research funded by the ERC. So this is quite interesting to see. The list goes on. We have a huge number of firms, and we will analyze this further, but this is just quite impactful to see that technology developed by these big companies actually also refer to frontier research funded by the ERC. Next, please. So this is what I was telling you before. So the researchers, for us, they've tried to classify the different patent citing ERC research in technology sector and technology fields following the WIPO classification. And as I said before, you see in red the fields which are mainly citing ERC funded research. I mean, patents in this field, of course. And you see that the second part of the table refers to technologies which are in sector which are more advanced already, more mature, and there we don't really have a great prevalence of ERC citing in patents. And that's what I was trying to say before. We are really going to push further the frontier of knowledge. Next, please. So then they also try to classify where this ERC funded research gave particular influential contributions, and these are it's a classification based on some of the commission thematic description of the ERC projects, and you really see that these are the areas in which we can find patent applications inspired by ERC funded research. And you see image recognition, graphene, solar cell technology, application of microRNAs and immunotherapy treatments, stem cell technology. So you see a lot of physical science engineering and also life science and really at the frontier of the technology developments. And the idea is exactly to try to look into these patents and these technologies, and then try to identify some of the innovations that are already available on the market or are expected to be innovations based on these technology, and try to find out how much frontier research has impacted on them. Next, please. So then another interesting thing exactly is to see whether the publications we are highly impactful in terms of research. So the publication which receive a very high number of citation in scientific publication, so meaning they are really breakthrough, they are really pushing ahead the frontier of knowledge, making new discovery and innovation in science. If these same publications are also the same, which are highly cited in patents, and it comes out that it's most probably true. Here is just a list of the highly cited publication in science and in patents, and there is a clear pattern that the publications citing ERC research who are highly cited in scientific literature are also highly cited in technological inventions. Next, please. So in fact, then the researchers made also some analysis and regression analysis. They do confirm that there is a positive and statistical significant relationship within the scientific excellence of a research project. So as I said before, the citation in scientific literature and technological influence in terms of citations in patents. And we are making also some further analysis on that, because we have another study done by colleagues here, by experts actually, where they are trying to identify in various what they call the hot scientific research areas, so really the most innovative scientific areas, and they try to see which scientific papers have been seminal in contributed to this scientific area. And so we have a list of ERC publications which really contributed to advances in science. And now what we are trying to see, we are trying to link the results of this study with the results of the study on patents, and really preliminary results show that some of the publications which are seminal in pushing ahead the frontier of research are also the one highly cited in patents. So the link is there, and it's clear. And next, please. And this is my last slide, just to give you an example of what I just said. So Henry Snyde is an ERC grantee. He has a scientific starting grant from 2011 and 2 proof of concept grants. And in 2012, he published a paper which has been considered foundational for the inception and development of the research field of halide perovskite. And this has been considered clearly by experts in the area as really a seminal paper. I mean, the whole halide perovskite in solar panels is the whole research has really been sort of brought up by this specific paper. This specific paper came out of the ERC grant of 2011. He then got the proof of concept grant. He has 302 patent applications which are citing this article from 2011 by different companies and institutions all over the world. And Henry Snyde also created a company which is called Oxford PV, which is a company based in Oxford. And it's a company which raised a lot of money on funding, over 10 rounds. And the company itself is patenting a lot based on the same technology. So here you really see one example, and we have many, of the circle closing around from scientific research to innovation or potential innovation. Many more details in the report. You can look at it. You can ask me questions. You can send me questions. It's a lot to process in a presentation like this, but the message is quite clear. And I think this final slide is sort of summarizing the message of the importance of frontier research for technology transfer, patenting, and eventually we will prove that also for innovation. Thanks for this. End of the presentation.
Thanks a lot, Laura. This was really, really interesting. And I always say that funding of fundamental research, basic research, is really important for technology transfer, because without excellent results, you cannot transfer. There is nothing to transfer. So it's a real message to especially our countries that are, let's say, putting less money into research, and that's really important. It's not only about applied. You always have to have this breakthrough investigation, curiosity driven, and we have to fund our excellent researchers in all the countries from the national sources, because Europe will not fund that much of this unless it's really, really excellent. Thanks a lot for that. Christoph posed the question. I'm opening the floor for discussion and Q&A.
Yes, thanks a lot, Laura. I mean, this is fascinating. This is a very exciting study, and I have dozens of questions, so I will try to keep it short, and maybe we can discuss afterwards. But my first reaction would be, it would be interesting to know exactly how the scientific results are quoted or used in the patents. I mean, I guess this is a sort of background knowledge. And so the really interesting thing is how were these patents made possible? So what was the additional work? Because the real question is, okay, I like very much the example of Henry Snaith in Oxford, but look at the owners of the patents: IBM, Microsoft, Google, Intel, Samsung, Huawei. Wow, I mean, what did they do? So we didn't do in Europe. Okay, because we got the results here that was funded by public European money, and you could make a very short conclusion that we basically pay so that US and Chinese companies make money and profits with new patents based on our research.
I can also say that this is my personal opinion, and I'm very strong on that. You can also, first of all, IBM. There's a lot of IBM in Europe too, but I can also say that all the products that IBM, Microsoft, Samsung, and all the others are producing based on that are benefiting you too, and me, and everybody in Europe. So the point is that basic research is available to everybody. You cannot really put borders on that. And these are the results of basic research. They're published in international journals. They are available. Research is available to everybody. So hard to stop that. And
another way to put it, another way to put it is which company in Europe, because you're right, I mean, we benefit from the products, but we don't benefit from the business. So which company in Europe could use the same data, the same science, and produce new patents and thus maybe new business?
Yes, but who can do that? It's the companies in Europe who have to do that. I mean, the research is there available. But yes, I mean, I can go down further in the list. By the way, I mean these are the first 20. I certainly can find many more, and certainly there are Europeans there too.
Thank you.
Let's see other questions, maybe in a chat. I think what Christoph is trying to say is, what can we do to foster, European utilization? Exactly. That's a question. It's not actually for you. It's more for the European companies, that they have to dig further and deeper into the scientific publications. I have another question regarding the company list, list of companies which are mostly from IT field. I know that they are working a lot in the medical, but on one side you said that 61 or whatever is in life sciences percent cited, but on the other hand you have companies that are more in IT business. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, but that's true. But a lot of these technologies then are also used in all sectors, I guess. I mean, IT is used everywhere. But it's true that there are a lot of biotech companies also in the list. Probably not in the first 20, but there are certainly in the others. I mean, these are the top 20, and of course one should analyze it much further. But it's true that the fact that there is a lot of interdisciplinarity also to look at, because these are the area of research from which the ideas come from are then applied in other areas. So we should also look at this cross multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, which is at the end what will at the end come out with an innovation. It's an analysis that has to be done, certainly.
Yeah, and it's maybe, more companies with less citations than the big ones that are on the top.
Yeah, they are at the top. They are the big companies. Yeah, these are the big ones, and of course they probably patent more than others. I mean,
Yeah, sure. Okay, we have another question. Thanks a lot for such an insightful analysis. I would agree on that. A somewhat specific question. Did you look into the standard essential patents? In other words, the influence of the publications from ERC-funded projects on SAP?
we did not, but I take note, actually. No, we did not.
Okay, good. Any other? We have some more in the Q&A. And another one, is there a similar study comparing the impacts of ERC and those of, that was also my question, those of other H2020 Horizon Europe pillars? Are we able to identify which programs are the most effective in producing innovations?
No, as far as I know, there's nothing similar. I mean, what I know, we can make a comparison thanks to the dashboard of the European Commission, dashboard of the GRTD, where we can compare but this is another thing, you can compare the patents which are directly reported by the researchers. So there you compare ERC funded researcher to researchers funded by other parts of the framework program, both in FP7 and Horizon 2020. And even from there, ERC researchers are on the top. They're one who are patenting more than the others. This is a different thing, clearly. It's not the same, because what we are looking here is at the use of research funded by ESC researcher. And I don't think anything like that exists in the rest of the framework program. It could be interesting, of course.
Right. Okay, we have another one from Robert Belinsky. So let's give up all the IP to Chinese. They can use it very efficiently. For us, how will we pay for it?
Well, is that a question for the ERC? I don't think so.
This is not really a question, but
It's not exactly.
can I just build on what was said before? I have a question about non-patentable results, because of course, patents is a very exciting topic, because we can measure it, we can see that this is public, we can do some analysis, but obviously many other uses of scientific results are made without patenting. And I know this is a very difficult topic, but I was wondering if you thought about taking some stories about non-patentable interesting results.
Yeah, of course, we have discussed that, and it comes out also as one of the comments in the report, and obviously in particular, but not only for the areas of social science and humanities. And one of the things that we are trying to think of, but it's not in the immediate. It's exactly how to measure that. As I said, I mean, we are looking where we have data, and the data we have our own patents and publications. What we are looking at, although it's not exactly the same, is to see something similar to this study, but to see how ERC publications are cited in policy documents, and to see then the impact or the influence on policies. And that's much more complicated than this. I mean, we are really we have some data, we are looking into it. It's very complicated because you have to define what a policy document is, and how the literature is cited, how much that does really influence the development of a policy. We are doing that too. For the other non-patentable results, we are aware, we talk about, but we are not there yet.
Okay, any other questions from the audience? Oh yeah, there is one. The study shows that SSH lags behind other disciplines in terms of citations in patent applications. Can ERC do anything to promote social innovation and or the integration of SSH research outcomes in patents?
To promote, well, I've been following the ERC proof of concept grant from the very beginning. I mean, I was sort of designing it from the very beginning, and we have always been following its implementation exactly, with particular emphasis on the fact that for social science and innovation, you don't have a lot of proof of concept, and you don't have a lot of successful proof of concept. And I've analyzed it in all possible aspects, and it's also it's very complex, obviously, because very often the type of innovation which comes out from this research is of course non-patentable, but it's also difficult to monetize sometimes. And we have been trying to analyze why there is not any innovation. I mean, there is for sure, but it's not as it is in the others. We have tried to make it clear to social sciences that proof of concept is also for them. We changed the language in the work program. We took away all the words like commercialization or market. We tried to talk about valorization or impact application without focusing too much on technologies. But the results didn't really change. We also thought it's a question also of educating the SH communities on that. We have some very good examples, and the idea also was to make some video promotion and testimonials to show this community that there is opportunity also for them. Yeah, as I said, this is all the things that we have been doing, and hopefully we will have some results at that point. But
I think even 7% is quite a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Research, so I was actually happy with that.
No,
see,
exactly.
usually this kind of people and researchers don't think that there is any possibility of technological invention from their research.
Yeah, but most of now I didn't look into this particular result. I know it's 7%. I didn't look what they are, but I know from, for example, from the proof of concept, very often the type of innovation coming out from social sciences studies, they are not really social innovation. They are very often like methodologies used in the research, or maybe the results of a social science research comes out in a IT tool, in a platform, in something which is or in a educational games, but it becomes more commercializable, if you want to. So in terms of real social innovation, it's harder to pick it out. And maybe also through this analysis of the influence of policy, we could find out of something. But to say that we are very much aware of this and we are looking into it. But still it's more difficult to measure it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I don't see any more questions, but I really am glad that you proved that this kind of funding for ERCs is so important and beneficial for the innovation in Europe, which is actually the buzzword.
Yeah,
The
I
only
think
thing
that
is how to move the users from other parts of the world to Europe. That's another story. That's the next step maybe for the European Commission to work
yeah,
more
but
on.
one thing that we are planning now to work with the working group on innovation of the DRC is like how to make this. I mean, this message is clear for you and it's clear for many, but we have to find a way to make it absolutely loud and clear and understandable to everybody that yeah, with, as you said, without this type of research there will be no transfer and no innovation. So this has to be made very clear to everybody.
Yeah, for the lay audience, for sure.
Yeah, and
Okay.
policymakers.
And for sure, yeah, politicians in all the countries, for sure.
Thank you.
Decision makers. Yeah, okay, thank you, Laura, very much. It was really interesting. And so it's many questions raised, probably also for the end of, for the final discussions, there will be maybe some more. So thank you very much. I suggest that now we go for a break, which will last a little more than planned because we are on time. So let's come back at 11:10 for the presentation of Mr. Viral Pekka and the EIC.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot, everyone. And please come back in 15 minutes. Thanks.
Good to go.
Thank you. Hi, hello, everyone. I'm glad you're back in such big numbers. I hope you are still with us, and because we will continue with very interesting talks further on. With us today is Mr. Viral Pekka. He is the head of units Transition and Business Acceleration Services within the European Innovation Council. As you know, the EIC was set up to promote mainly breakthrough, deep tech, and disruptive innovation, targeting especially market creating innovation. And in this respect, it is very interesting for us, the TTOs, to better understand how our community of TT professionals can collaborate with the EIC in order to facilitate the transfer of knowledge and results generated in the research projects towards their further development within the EIC scheme and consequently their commercial use. So we'll hear about more about that from Viorel. So Viorel, please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me here, and then second, for giving the opportunity to present you the transition, but also the business acceleration services. And in the slide, I will highlight a bit some ideas on how to collaborate, but definitely more open to any other ideas that you see, because I really think that that both transition and business acceleration services, we can collaborate because we have in the end the same goals. And I would like to start a bit with the big picture, saying why it makes sense and why there was a need for transition activity. I think it's one of the few European projects that is tackling the so-called European paradox, where we say that Europe, when we know that Europe is very good at basically science and advanced research, but less successful in transforming these outstanding results into innovations into market. Okay, our commission president put it very well at the launch of the EIC, where he says we Europeans are excellent at making science with money, but not so good at making money out of science. And this is some researcher may not be aware and may not agree even that this is necessary to close the circle, right? So that's why transition is really filling this gap between the low TRL schemes like Pathfinder or ERC POC, and accelerator and other high TRL schemes. A bit more into detail now about transition. So why we have transition? So basically, we want to support these novel technologies up to a TRL of 5.6. Not only to mature the technology, we call this the technology maturation track, but also to improve their business maturation track. Okay, and like both Pathfinder and Accelerator has both an open compartment, an open part, we call this transition open, and a challenges compartment with, in this case, 3 challenges, and the open part is it's more than 50, actually is a bit less than 60%. Another particularity of the transition, apart from the fact that is maturing both the technology and the business aspects, is that is a restricted call, but a restricted call to the project results of the scheme that you see in the middle. So not the participants, but the project result. Namely, is restricted to applicants from Pathfinder and previous FET, Future Emerging Technologies, from the 3 FET, ERANET, Kistera, Plagera, and Quantera, and for ERC proof of concept, again, both for transition and for transition open and transition challenges. As a novelty from 2023, it is open to 2 new programs, the EDF for European Defence Fund, of course, for the civilian application of these project results, and only for the challenges, let me underline just for the transition challenges, to all the low TRL project results from H2020 and with the time horizon Euro. In terms of our support, we are talking about between 0.5 and 2.5 million euro of a grant, so RNI action, so covering fully the eligible cost. And on top of that, our beneficiaries are eligible for booster grants up to 50K, but also for business acceleration services. And there is a time restriction, namely that the application must come from a project result that started at least for 1 year, and finish no more than 2 years after the call deadline. Our budget is the smallest of the 3 schemes, namely for this year, 128 million euro. However, our success rate is pretty good, actually, is the highest. We are targeting around 20%, and I think we are around 80% on average. You see the budget that is allocated to open, transition open 67, and 60 million for the 3 challenges. We try to split them equally, but also it depends a bit on demand and the quality of the proposal. And you can apply at any time, and we have till now 2 cutoffs per year. One we just closed, we had 180 proposals, and the next one will close in 27th of September this year. Very important slide. What are the core elements of a good proposal? And this is really, really important. First, to answer yes to all the questions that you see in the lower corner. I will not go over them. I will just mention yes to all the questions. And they are okay for applicants, or in this case for the TTO if you support them or you apply yourself, but they are all important. And then the second point is the starting point. The starting cannot be, the TRL level cannot be lower than 3 and higher than 4. So 3 or 4, not more, no less, and 4 is better than 3, but 3 is still okay. And then important, each project or application needs to have both a technology maturation track and a business track. The weight between the 2 is flexible, can be, but I would say minimum no less than 30% to any of them. And very important, they should start both from the beginning or mostly from the beginning of the project and collaborate and interact across the lifetime of the project. And the endpoint should be a functional version of the technology tested or demonstrated in the relevant environment, so TRL 5/6, and very important, not alone, but supported by a sound and realistic or implementable commercialization strategy. Again, it's not a transition to nowhere, it's transition to the market. So that's why the commercialization track is important. Transition is a flexible scheme. We put in the work program some illustrative pathway. The wording is different, but I like to call this, as we did them in the beginning, transition to technology, transition to market, and transition to entrepreneurship. There is no pre-allocation between the 3, and they are not the only one. They are just some examples, and shows that we can have a collaborative projects with more focus on maturing the technology, or mono-beneficiary projects, or even PhD or postdoc taking the result of their research, setting up a small company, even sometimes literally a few months before, or even a spin-off afterwards during it, and running towards the market and really trying things. Yeah, just some novelties in Work Program 23. We have put in the Work Program, just to highlight the collaboration opportunities for, especially for TTOs or even knowledge transfer offices. We encourage the collaboration and collaboration or application even from RTO. For technology transfer offices, collaboration with RTO or universities, and we are recognizing that TTO are key player in supporting research towards market, especially for the commercialization aspects, or including for the commercialization aspects. Okay, and there are specific wording put in the work program, really. And then another novelty is this increase of scope, like I mentioned, EDF, for all transition open-end challenges, and for transition challenges only, all projects funded under H2020, provided that they satisfy the TRL criteria and the timing. Very important, because we see that we are now getting application with higher TRL, and this is not accepted. It's transition is not a, let's say, an alternative to accelerator. If you are a TRL 6, you have to apply to accelerator or other schemes. Some lessons learned, I think that would be important to increase the success rate. We have, and this is another novelty, by the way, we have increased the focus on impact and higher business potential. We've seen unfortunately, a few projects actually that had some very niche application and so on, and we think, I mean, they are legitimate, and of course, but we don't think this is relevant for a European program, especially as a mono-beneficiary application. Again, the need for business model and market analysis, even if it's incipient, is there, and this is one of the main issues of failure. And then the technology readiness level. In the past, we had lower TRL, so we said minimum 3, but also maximum 4. So we have now a few applicants with TRL with level 5, even coming from innovation action. Just to give you some idea about valorization pathway, so we see the most popular, but not the only one, is direct exploitation. In other words, a member of the consortium will exploit the innovation and technology, but followed not very far by spin-off, whether before or after the proposal or the projects, or during the project, and even licensing is also acceptable. Okay, the only reason is we need to be credible and really honest, so to speak. I was mentioning this about that we are encouraging, or we are specifically mentioning the involvement of TTO, and you see in the lower part where we say collaborative. This is really work program text, a focus collaborative projects where we say this pathway is likely to require a collaboration among several applicants, multi-beneficiary, including SME, research performance, technology transfer office, and potential users or customers. And again, in the second paragraph, we also mention technology transfer again. So that's also an invitation from our side towards you to help your researchers, but the one in your university, or not only, can be also from outside. But what the only requirement is to make sense, or not to have an opportunistic approach, just because there is some money just where you can add value. Also, the TTOs can access the booster grants. We are launching this, I think, as we speak, again, to explore the commercial feasibility of a project results, whether from an ongoing or even from a finished project. And then we are really believing that TTO can support to find partners. What we have seen from the questions that we get during the info day, but also from numerous visits that we get, is that there are researchers who, of course, are very good at the research part. They develop this proof of concept, whether ERC, POC, or FET ILP, or just FET or Pathfinder. But then because we are forcing them, the evaluation criteria are quite clear. They are not so confident or have expertise in the innovation or market aspects, okay? And that's where they would benefit from collaborating with the entrepreneur, with a startup, with an SME, or other market actors. But of course, it's not so easy to find them. It's not just the internet is out there. It's you need a bit more support there. And in the same time, there are SMEs or startups that could benefit from this because their product is complemented with some research, and it could increase their added value. And we even developed a model. We call this the 3 I's: get informed, get interconnected, and get involved. And we can make a more detailed presentation if you are interested. But we really think that TTOs can act as an intermediary and also add value to the consortium. My second part of the presentation is about potential and the business acceleration services and potential collaboration. So we are very convinced that the investment to develop to develop their ideas, whether low or high TRL, is a must. We invest over 1.6 billion euro per year, but it's not sufficient to be successful in the market. That's why we provide business acceleration services, smart money, demand side measures to all our 3 compartments around these 3 axes: connection to innovation ecosystem partners and their services, business access to business partners. I am talking today from Amsterdam, from where we have in Shell's open innovation center, and we are doing a corporate day with Shell. So you see their corporates, but also we do investor, mind matching, and so on. And then we also support our innovator with access to advice and skills, whether early stage. We call this tech to market business acceleration services. We launched 1st of May a EIC scale up, for example, women leadership, and even we had a program which has stopped beginning of this year of reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. And we have a tool that is available to all of you and all the SMEs. Now, in order to cater to more specialized needs, we have developed this collaboration with ecosystem partners, where we want to give to our awardees, to our beneficiary, access to the services from top European incubators, accelerators, even venture builders, also research infrastructure. And we do this by call for expression of interest. Okay, we did it 2 last year, and we'll have 1 this year. And we have received a very positive outcome, okay? And it's not soon, but a catalog, it's already available. And we are really even scaling up our efforts in this respect. And we put this in the work program that will also support part of the cost of these services, okay? And just to give you some examples, so we had a first cutoff in 22nd of June 22, then at the end of the year, and we'll have a third one in 2nd of June this year. And we have even closed an additional one on internationalization. We received quite some applications, and we have the criteria for selection, excellent of the service, addressing the needs of beneficiaries, and complementarity with the current offer, plus sectorial and geographical diversity. And you can see here from the first cutoff date, you see on the left-hand side the part of country. So obviously, we'll look to have this geographical diversity, but also in terms of organization, you see, for example, accelerator are the most popular, but also business angel one, and then we have consulting, private equity, trade, and even venture builders. And just to give you some examples of the first cohort of EIC partners with 24 applications including in the catalog, you will see in a second. You see from the IPR Help Desk, Angel Sante, Catalyze, you name it. I'm sure the names are familiar to some, if not all of you. And then because in the beginning we did not count on such a success, but we've seen the number of applications, hundreds of them, and we realized we need a catalog because otherwise nobody will find its way. And you can see the structure there that you can have, and in the yellow you can see, for example, that if you can click and I'm a transition, you have a bit more or Pathfinder, you are more contextualized, let's say, information. And we also have a help desk, and we will include all the services in this catalog, including our existing ones, of course. And just to give you more information, the type of services you see there, the most numerous is business planning, and then IP and legal. They are also there, also due diligence, and very important, HR and talent, or even prototyping and POC. But there, I think there is space for more. And you can see here, I did just specially for you a search in the catalog. I put technology transfer, and I got three hits. Well, out of 30, I think there is place for more. And what we want to propose to you is, I call this technology transfer or as a service. Why? Because we know in Europe we have this gap between member states and even associated countries. Also, even in bigger countries, we see also regional differences. So it can be that certain of our beneficiaries have very good technology transfer offices and good bandwidth, experience, expertise, you name it. But there may be others that do not have that. So there is an opportunity for you to provide their services across Europe. And so definitely we are encourage you to keep an eye on our webpage, to subscribe to our channels, newsletter, LinkedIn channel, etc., Twitter, and even write down the 2nd of June, and then to apply to this call for expression of interest. And you see here some 3 examples. Perhaps you even know them, and they provide technology transfer and various bits and pieces of the technology transfer process. So definitely an open invitation to join our ecosystem partners. Another opportunity is the tech to market services. So these are the business acceleration services for early stage, namely Pathfinder and Transition. We have 2 lots or 2 batches, one more entrepreneurial programs from a training, introductory, advanced, but also business exploration or market business model validation. But we also have a venture building services in second lot, where we start with exploration and feasibility, the so-called validation workshop. And literally, as I speak, there is one going on now, and we had one 2 days ago, and we will have more. And then we go about feasibility assessment, the usual venture building process. And we have our contractor here is Collider from Mobile World Congress. And then we have a specific call for expression of interest for experts for support, both to help us with this part, especially feasibility assessment, but also to help provide these on-demand services to the new incorporated ventures that will come eventually at the end of the tunnel. So there is this call for expression. We call this call for expertise, where you would help us to work with this, and you see what we are looking for. Individual, so you will work not as an organization but as an individual expert in expertise in bringing deep tech innovations to market, and provide feedback on the potential of these technologies, and provide feedback to our innovators. So you see what type of activity: act as a market expert, or as an analyst or mentor or supplier. For the first role, this will be pro bono, but for supplier, that this will be this can be paid, or this will be paid. So definitely, I encourage to check our website and answer to this call for expression of interest for experts. I think this was the last slide, and I hope I was in time. I think so. And now I will stop sharing so that we can see each other.
Yeah, you are very much on time. Thank you very much, Viorel. You explained a lot about how can you benefit from technology transfer offices as well as experts who are all our members. So I think everybody found it really interesting. Do you have, Christoph, some question immediately, or we'll go on?
Yes, I would have a question, but I think there is already one from Gernot, I think. Yeah.
Yes. So it's valorization pathway overview. Are these statistics based on all proposals or funded projects?
No, these were on funded projects.
Okay.
I would have a question, Viorel. Thanks a lot for the very clear and nice presentation. I think these are very important tools for us in the community. We see some national additional funding for that. I mean, proof of concept and this acceleration processes. So my first question would be about what kind of articulation we can imagine between national initiatives and EIC ones. And the second question would be about how you see the dream team, okay? Because to my point of view, what I see in some ecosystems is that the right organization, the right team includes scientific people, so the providers of knowledge, um, knowledge transfer specialists, and business experts, basically. And you mentioned the call for experts also. So that would be my second question. Is that the kind of dream team you like also to promote? And do you have additional views on that? Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very not only interesting but pertinent question, Christophe. Let's take them in order. For the moment, yeah, we are restricted to the scope that I mentioned, and we are not open to proposals coming from national programs. Okay, I know that this has been one of the kind of the most demanded thing from the beginning, and actually. I've been personally, because this transition was my idea there. I've been very pleased to see that that it fits a need there. But of course, you've seen the budget and also the associated resources. I run a sector with less than 10 people. So for the moment, this is not open, transition is open to national program. We have increased already the scope. So it's like I seen in 23, we increased to all H2020 and Horizon Europe and even to European Defence Fund, which is obviously outside H2020, is a separate program. So whether this will or when will happen is difficult to speculate, but definitely we are open to it, provided, of course, the budget is increased, because it doesn't make sense to move, again, as a follow-on project, to move to a success rate less than 50%. It will be so demotivated. So we need to add money and resources to it. There is an opportunity, which is called midterm review, which is gathering speed, of course, and it's important that you are talking, when I say you, as an organization, you are talking with various member states responsible for the program community, including the strategic program committee of 2020 in Europe. For them, look, we have seen a scheme that is really, really fitting the need, a gap, and for the moment is limited to H20 or Horizon Europe, sorry, but it would need to be open to all our programs. We do have in accelerator, for example, we have the so-called plugin, so we can work something that will be open, but of course this needs to be adopted in the legal base, approved by the member states, and more than happy from my side. Okay, so for the moment, we are.
Sorry, Viorel, am I the only one to have some sound issues?
No.
No, I
think it's sort of bad connection with you, VRL, so we have difficulties understanding what you're talking about.
No, I think there was on a mic what is open, but I will repeat. So on summary, it is not open, but definitely something that we can discuss if the budget and resources are adapted accordingly.
Very, very clear. Thanks a lot.
It's clear. You need to talk with the member states representative in the various program committees. Okay.
Sure. Okay. And so the second part about what would be your dream team for the success of these projects in a given specific project?
Indeed, another very interesting question. What I want to say is that what would not be the dream team? I think it's a good point to start. Namely, that if you have a team only of researchers, for example, for initial consortium, etc., that would not be such a good idea. And we have specifically adapted the evaluation criteria, obviously one of the most important elements in the work program, to mention that in the team, in the implementation part, it's not only about researchers, okay? It's also that we have the complete expertise to go to market. And it's clear hint that you need to have people with business expertise, okay? This is not to say that we are privileging consortia versus mono-beneficiary. Actually, 40% of our projects are mono-beneficiary, especially coming from ERC POC, which, as you know, most ERC are mono-beneficiary, but 60% are multi-beneficiary, mostly coming from FET and Pathfinder, but also a few ERC, they also come with exactly this. So again, we are talking starting at TRL 3 or in the best case 4. And at that TRL, there is a clear need to do more research. Not the same type of research you do in Pathfinder, but more applied research and more to improve efficiency and industrialization and so on and so on. So I still think there is space to do research, but also it's very important to tackle what we call the business maturation track. To look already at the proposal stage, you need to say what is your environment, a relevant environment. In the jury phase, they will ask you about competitors, etc. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have it to be accelerator quality. But if you say nothing, you will fail. I can guarantee you. And again, remember, you compete with yourself at the jury phase, and the success rate is less than 50%. So very important to have this people with business and innovation expertise and drive to bring it to the market. Okay, whether we also is not a it's not a must that they be part of the team. We take to market, that's we do venture building, for example, also for Pathfinder. We are talking about entrepreneurship in residence. We have executive in residence collaboration with EIB. So we are providing all this kind of thing, but you need to be at the proposal stage to say, okay, I don't have this expertise, but I want to do a spin-off and I will acquire or I will need to get in contact with a potential CEO. But you need to be credible. Of course, if you have somebody in the team already that is an SME or you spin it out already in the previous project, obviously you are a bit more credible, okay? But in general, we are shying away from giving a recipe because there is no single size or one size fits all, okay? But I would say definitely the weak part of many of the proposals are exactly the innovation part.
Thank you, Viorel. We have some more questions from the audience. Where can I find more information about the booster grants?
Indeed, we will present this next week to the program committee, and we will put an FAQ in the website. But what is important is that this is proactive management tool is not something that there is a call and you can apply. You will discuss this with your program managers in the review meeting. We are training the innovation radar and so on, and it's not something that you can apply. You will receive a link, and then you have a few weeks to submit a 5-pager proposal. Okay. And there is information in the work program. There is a dedicated annex, actually, 5 or 6, I forget the exact number, where it says all the information about booster grant.
Thank you. There is another one from Carmen Palomino. The EIC transition challenges also include any Horizon 2020 projects as a base for the EIC. However, there is a window of up to 24 months since the end of the base project. Does the EC plan to extend the window considering the pandemic impact?
Thank you very much, Carmen, for your question. We have, due to COVID, we have extended the projects, the ongoing projects, but we did not extend this window of 2 years, which we consider that is, if after 2 years you did not apply, is a bit late. So if your project was impacted, and I think mostly, if not all of our projects were impacted, your project was prolonged, and then you have a new end date of your project, and you've done an amendment, and we had even 1 year prolonged amendments, and then that counts as the end of the project from which 2 years are applied. Okay, so I think directly no, but indirectly yes.
Yeah, I think she meant more about the COVID situation after the project ends towards the application to the EIC, as I understood.
I see your point. No, we are not covered, but we functioned even during COVID time. We functioned fully remote. Actually, all our evaluations are remote now, so it's not that we did not have the calls open, but I see why this may have been a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, you were not here during the Laura's presentation, but she explained about the success actually of ERC and going to the patents and so on. So I'm wondering, how will you measure your outputs or success of the program? In what way? When will you pronounce the projects really successful? What you consider, the ends and the impact later on?
Indeed, I think we are too early for that. We had a pilot in we call this T2I pilot with 19 projects in 2000 and end of 19, so actually beginning of 20, and we see now there are some projects towards the end of the review because of course they were impacted by COVID. But these projects were how can I say, relatively small, like I say 19, also very early TRL because the evaluation process was not including a jury member. There were different criteria, was H2020 legal base. So what we see is clearly that these projects, because their TRL was not 3 or 4, they struggle, and they with many risks. They also they were perhaps a bit, some of them too ambitious, and we will see how many of those will be successful. Okay, but we learn a lot from them even in the beginning. The first projects from Horizon Europe, the call was closed in 21. We had only one cutoff, so not two cutoff like this year, but only one, which was in September or October, if I remember. And what happened actually is that the project started very, very late. Actually, it was another lessons learned. We put in the work program, they have to start within 2 months after receiving the information for between signing the grants. But we can imagine we work like hell in the end of 21, beginning of 22. To do this is within 6 months. Time to grant is a fast track program. And then we had projects that started in October 2022. Okay, so obviously I think we are now getting for earliest project after 1 year review. So it's way too early to judge the success of this program. We can only judge it by the reaction that we get, the type of proposal, and we are very happy indeed that we see that with ERC we have hit a clear match. I would call this hand in glove. 50% of our application come from the CPOC, and in terms of projects even more. I think it's around 60%. And I know from the history, I remember many years ago as the head of the innovation unit in DG Connect, and a member of the ERC Scientific Council, Reinhild de Vossner, came to see about phase 1. But still, phase 1, it's a bridge too far because it's TRL 6. And transition is exactly what the ERC projects need, because it starts where they finish. Okay, and then they bring them to the. So I think in the term of criteria of response from our stakeholder is very positive. We also had in the last cutoff dates an application from a Nobel Prize winner. Okay, so we see very good. Unfortunately for her, did not make it, which shows that we are pretty selective there, and it's not just about research, but also real about innovation or transition to innovation. So not yet the impact is too early, but in terms of outputs and reaction from our stakeholder, I would say is very, very positive. And the only negative one that I've seen is the fact that it's a restricted call, a bit in line with your first question, Christoph.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Nothing in the chat, nothing in the Q&A. Then I would like to thank you, VRL, very much for your presentation. It was quite interesting, and it's nice to hear that the TTOs are considered and the TT professionals are considered very much and taken into account in your projects. Okay,
thank you very much for having me. If you find useful, we can go in a presentation to go an in-depth presentation about how to find and put in contact innovators and or SMEs and entrepreneurs and project results. We can go and do even a sort of a test or dry runs to see a bit with some concrete cases per region, per country, per whatever. But of course, that would need at least half an hour, if not 1 hour, just to go for in-depth one. Because and this is a bit my pitch to the TTOs to say, look, you can really be and connect the research and the researchers and the innovators. So thank you very much for your interest, and I'm looking forward to see some more details in our proposals.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I suggest that we could just continue our collaboration within the meetings as we had already, and maybe to make it somehow regular. And you can always join us in the EU forums, which we also organize
Absolutely.
twice a year. Okay, thank
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely. Thank you very much. Enjoy the
Thank you.
event.
Thank you.
Next.
Johan.
So now we are moving on. Our next speaker, and actually the last speaker of the day is, last but not least, is Panagiotis Sevdalis, who is policy officer in the Unit for Innovation Policy and Access to Finance of the Directorate General for Research and Innovation at the European Commission. He works on the preparation, implementation of the EU innovation policy, ensuring its complementarity to the EU and national policies and strategies, and is actively engaged in the development and implementation of the new European innovation agenda, which has been designed to help Europe to develop new technologies to address the most pressing societal challenges and to bring them on the market. In addition, he is a coordinator of the European Innovation Ecosystem Work Program under Horizon Europe, and he's engaged in the development of long-term visions, favorable framework conditions, and incentive for stimulating and steering the demand-side innovation policy. So thank you, Panos, for joining us today, and tell us more about the new European Innovation Agenda, which is our topic for you today, among your many, many activities that you are involved in.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Smilka Herstov. I would like to ask Anwar if possible to share my slides because I am also a victim of technology right now, of innovation right now, and I cannot click for some reason on the presentation. So if Anwar, you could
Yeah, I'm sure.
immediately. Very thanks. So thank you very much for the invitation. I will talk to you about the new European Innovation Agenda, this initiative which was adopted by the Commission last year in July 2022. I'm sure that most of you have at least heard about that, or some of you might have been engaged in actions related to that. However, I would like to go through the initiatives that we have developed, or we are developing, and explain to you a bit of the policy context and what we had in mind when we put forward this orientation. For those of you that are not much familiar with the notion of the agenda, this communication is not a regulation. It's actually it gives a direction that the Commission perceives that innovation should follow the next years in Europe, identifying the areas where we think that we can have a competitive advantage globally. And if we go to the next slide, you will see that up front this idea was generated and further discussed with stakeholders around Europe. It is a fact that the last innovation agenda or innovation communication which was developed was back in 2011. So you understand that there was a building intention and willingness to develop something new. And in this context, we had with us many different stakeholders, from innovation ecosystem leaders groups to women founders, VCs, and businesses, with the final intention, by quoting the Commissioner Gabriel herself, to make Europe a global powerhouse for deep tech innovation and startups. And if we go to the next slide, everyone's question is why this focus on deep tech? This is a very usual question. What was perceived and what was also received from the stakeholders was that deep tech innovation can give us a competitive advantage. Why? Because it's rooted in cutting edge science, technology, and engineering. It combines advances in the physical, biological, and digital spheres, but also has a very significant transformative power, giving solutions which will help us face uh, global challenges, which without a doubt affect our even our day-to-day activities. Going to the next slide, um, why are we capable of dealing with deep tech? Where do we base our engagement on deep tech? Going through a thorough analysis and with many exchanges, we had to identify and articulate areas where Europe is strong, and areas and the foundations actually, which would ensure that we can successfully lead this identified deep tech wave. And this is where we saw that uh, Europe has a significant leadership in science. I mean, when we were talking about Europe, EU is responsible for 1/5 of all top quality publications in the world, and for over 20% of all top applications and patent applications that could contribute, for example, towards a green transition and so on. We had in mind a strong industrial base, which will be a fundamental element in leading the new wave of deep tech, as more than 80% of deep tech ventures are engaged in building physical products, and therefore they can often benefit from strong partnerships with leading industries. Without a doubt, Europe has one of the best higher education institutions and research organizations in the world, and their contribution in the EU education, research, and innovation um, is vital. But also something that we should not forget, especially in the turbulent days that we're going through, is the institutional stability that we are experiencing, and could um, ensure that the foundations can remain like that in order to build on our innovation, on the deployment of innovation. If we go to the next slide, um, you will see what is the final intention, the target out of that, which is, of course, a more competitive Europe in the outside world, a strong Europe in the outside world, which the intention of the agenda is always to serve and contribute towards the green and digital transition, um, improve the innovation cohesion, make sure that there will not be any more different speeds of innovation across member states in Europe, so that everyone will eventually catch up and be in a level that they can mutually commonly contribute towards same targets, but also eventually reinforce Europe's open strategic autonomy, which has been affected with the global challenges that we're facing. And I believe that this is commonly acknowledged and identified from every area and every different angle. So if we go to the next slide, you will see what was the idea behind how the new European Innovation Agenda was structured, and in particular the flagships, which cover different areas, contributing, of course, to the targets that I mentioned to you, having into consideration, taking into consideration the areas where Europe is strong, but also identifying the areas where there are significant gaps. The first one is related to funding, and funding for deep tech scale-ups, as it was commonly acknowledged a significant gap between the possibility for having significant scale-ups in Europe. This is a gap which was identified, for example, with the US, and therefore it was considered essential to find ways to mobilize private funding, crowd in private funding, creating a framework where private investors will have an interest to um, work and support EU companies aiming, which have the capacity to thrive while securing their investments. Then the second part, the second flagship, is related to experimentation and public procurement. Experimentation, because one of the parts that we have seen coming a lot back to us was concerns in relation to how flexible and how conducive regulation nowadays in Europe can be towards innovation. Is regulation hampering innovation? Does it prevent us from doing things eventually? And in this context, we put forward the idea of the regulatory sandboxes, living labs, and test beds, namely spaces which can help us test innovation, both in terms of how it can be deployed, how it can affect the end user, but how also affects a society in general, namely leading to issues with regulation, either existing regulation or in areas where are still unregulated, what would be the best way to develop something. And the second part of this flagship is also procurement, as we have to identify the very significant purchasing power of the public sector in this context, who can play a very important role in supporting innovation, in cooperating with startups, and putting forward innovative solutions to which could significantly improve um, the public framework, public framework work. The third flagship is related to innovation ecosystems, and what I mentioned before, that we cannot afford anymore having regions and member states lagging behind innovation. We need a coordinated effort to have strong innovation ecosystems where all actors are engaged and contribute towards addressing the challenges that we have in front of us, complement to the extent possible, always to address the existing challenges. The notion, if we can say that as simple as that, is that actors do not in Europe have to complement rather than compete each other to create and develop sustainable and powerful ecosystems. The fourth flagship is related to the talent, which is, as I mentioned before, a very significant source of power for Europe, as our talents and the talents are what put forward the success stories of Europe. And in this context, we needed to develop an area, certain actions in support of that. And finally, the fifth flagship was related to policymaking tools and includes actions in relation to data-driven policymaking. You all, of course, acknowledge the importance of data nowadays. To a certain extent, we were missing a common definition, a common language where we could all agree about innovation, but also tools that member states have in their disposal, asking for support, and could help them develop in pro-innovation policies. If we go to the next slide and to the rest of my presentation, as you will see, I want to go through with you the actions, the 25 actions which have been included, the main 25 actions which have been included in the new European Innovation Agenda, and also give you an update on the state of play. Some of them have already completed, others are ongoing. Just a few of them have not kicked off yet, but you can find very extensively all this information also in the New European Innovation Agenda websites, where there is also a very nice depiction of the state of play of the actions and the roadmap, where we stand and where we're looking to go per action. In the area now of the access to finance, you will see that already the action on the progress in the debt equity bias reduction allowance initiative, where the Commission has already proposed it, this DEBRA action for corporate income tax. The intention in this action, in this initiative, is to address asymmetric tax treatment between debt and equity financing. After all, and in simple words, it is important to ensure that companies will be able to freely decide on their finance structure, based mostly on commercial considerations rather than tax issues. The second point is related to the Listing Act. At the end of 2022, the Commission published a legislative proposal for a Listing Act, which intends to simplify and ease listing requirements for certain types of companies. And again, here, the intention is to reduce cost and increase legal certainty for issuers, and ensure that we will safeguard investor protection and market integrity. You might be able to see that in both actions, risk is a parameter that we are trying to decrease in order to make the EU scale-up framework landscape more attractive to investors. A very important accomplishment was also the EU Tech Champion Initiative, which has, on 13th February of 2023, 5 member states, including Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and Belgium, together with the European Investment Bank Group, signed the agreement for 3.7 billion euros. This European Tech Champion Initiative Fund of Funds, which stands to invest into EU-centric scale-up funds and will complement the InvestEU offering for scale-up finance. Here you see a more targeted action and funding action. And finally, in the context of funding, it's always important to acknowledge the significance of and support to gender balance, which we try to promote also through the action of the Women to Invest program. It has already kicked off. Training is ongoing with 74 women already trained, coming from 27 member states. The results are encouraging, and we're continuing in this direction. If we go to the next slide, and the second flagship, here you recall it's about experimentation and procurement. The first deliverable of this flagship was in relation to the revised state aid framework for research and development. There, the idea was to make it easier to have access to the deployment of experimentation spaces in Europe. And then you see the other actions closely related to that. With the guidance document on sandboxes, we acknowledge the necessity to give to the innovators a document where they can navigate on what exists in Europe in terms of experimentation, what they can utilize, what they can imitate, what they could copy in their cases, because, as I said, it was perceived as a very important tool to overcome regulatory rigidities. In the same context, there are also actions funded directly focusing on experimentation, like the open test beds on renewable hydrogen. Keep in mind that we're trying to address also certain areas and certain challenges in front of us, including the reduction in fossil fuel emissions, with hydrogen being a very, very important area and investment area for Europe. The relevant experimentation facilities for testing AI, where there is a program of more than 78 million euros, which aims to deliver a European platform that will enable companies to develop, test, and also experiment AI product prototypes. And then in terms of innovation procurement, the core action is related to the procurement specialist advisory service, where the idea is to create an intermediary between public administration and the innovation provider, who can interconnect them, who can decrease the existing misunderstanding, misalignments, and ensure that the two main actors, the public administration and the innovators, can work together and promote innovation. In the next slide, you will see the third flagship, where, of course, I believe that the majority of you has already heard about the very very famous nowadays initiative of this agenda related to the regional innovation valleys. We have recently launched a call for expression of interest for interested regions to become regional innovation valleys, where we ask for certain commitments. Whereas in the 17th of May, we will also open the calls for support for proposals are opening for both Horizon Europe and the European Regional Development Fund. In this initiative, the Commission will give is mobilizing 100 million from the Horizon Europe calls and 70 million euros from the ERDF calls, and in particular from the Interregional Innovation Investments Instrument. In the same context, mentioning Horizon Europe and the ERDF, you see that there is also a relevant note about how member states can combine Horizon Europe and ERDF funding, which is important in order to build synergies and complementary activities. And in the same flagship, you will see our intention to create a one-stop shop for innovation ecosystem players, so that we can ensure that matchmaking, networking is taking place, sharing of information, showcasing of best case examples is taking place to a central European level, ensuring the engagement of all the actors. And finally, an initiative which is also under this flagship is related to the Scale Up 100 initiative under the European Innovation Council, where we want to identify the 100 companies, very innovative companies in Europe. This is also an action that is ongoing, and the Commissioner Gabriel is going to ask member states, not only EIC companies, she's going to ask member states to nominate their very innovative companies on 1st of June. There will be an assessment, and at the end there will be the identification of the 100 companies. Going to the next slide, and now we will talk about very quickly about the talent actions developed. We have already launched the action under the European Institute for Innovation and Technology, this EIT, and I'm referring to the Deep Tech Talent Initiative. On 11th of October, EIT has launched the pledge for inviting, targeting on 1 million deep tech talent across Europe to train them and increase their capacity, knowledge, deep tech innovation. You see that we have already received more than 700,000 applications with learners, and we of course anticipate to go on and reach soon the intended number. Why not even to exceed that? A very important initiative which was recently launched is the EU Talent Pool platform, and I'm saying recently because on at the end of March, a big team from the Innovation Valley, the Innovation family of the Commission, went to the Silicon Valley. And there again, the Commissioner announced the launch of this Innovation Talent platform, which will be a matching tool to help European business, including startups, to find the talents outside the EU that are not able to find in the EU labor market, and facilitate the mobility of skilled individuals. You understand the impact of bringing skilled individuals to Europe. As I said, talent is an important element to ensure the success of business continuity and innovation deployment. And similarly, you see that gender element, the gender dimension is also here strong, very, very strong with the initiatives on the women tech, women entrepreneurship, and women tech EU. Both of them are proceeding. In the case of the Women Tech EU initiative, we have already 50 grants awarded through our previous work program, and now we will. We had the program was a big success with almost 500 new applications. So it's definitely something that we are working on to ensure that the gender balance and the women participation in entrepreneurship will be enhanced and will be supported by the Commission. Going to the next slide, and the fifth flagship on policymaking tools. As I said, here we have the element of data and data-driven policymaking. One of the upcoming deliverables will be the new definitions related to startups, scale-ups, and deep tech innovation. It's essential that we will have a common common language between us, and we are going to talk about the same thing. Something that was not always convergence and consensus in this kind of topics, and you see the intention to develop a European startup scoreboard. Moreover, it's important to mention the Horizon Policy Support Facility and Technical Support Instrument. I said before that there are also instruments that member states, innovation actors can utilize, requesting for support from the Commission, which the Commission will then provide in order to develop pro-innovation regulation and policies. Whereas finally, there is the one tool which is called the European Innovation Council Forum, where the Commission is meeting member state delegates and innovation actors in order to exchange, to demonstrate and showcase best practices, gain knowledge, and then take an important input for developing policy. The ESC Forum has also recently, the latest development from the ESC Forum side was the publication of some policy orientations by the end of 2022 on the basis of 3 areas, which were including innovation policy, innovation procurement, and data. And if we go to the next slide, I will close my presentation with the way I started it, saying that when we kicked off the discussions for the new European Innovation Agenda, we had close to us many stakeholders. By the adoption and as we proceed, we of course realize that we cannot do the implementation on our own, and this is why the Coalition of the Willing has been launched. Initially, it was targeting to these main stakeholder groups. However, it's a broad effort to contribute to the implementation of the new European Innovation Agenda, and this is why we ask from our stakeholders who are interested to participate in this initiative. You can see also the website where you can find more information about that. Quoting again the commissioner and closing with that, she asked from the, let's say, the innovators, the people who share the same passion for innovation as her, to take the new European Innovation Agenda at their hands and implement and extend implementation all over Europe of this policy dimension that we're putting in. And with that, I'm thanking you very much for your patience, and back to you, Luca.
Thank you, Panos, and thanks a lot for explaining us a little bit about the new innovation agenda. Although I see it somewhere, let's say the really strategic and policy issue, and the implementation is mainly going through the other funding systems, if I understood correctly, plus this additional things that you're going through the member states. Is that correct?
In terms of the funding systems, I don't really understand what you mean in terms of the direction, because the funding systems that we're using, of course, stem from Horizon Europe. The main funding comes from Horizon Europe. You very much know the different phases and the very big significance of this huge framework program. But you saw also the reference to InvestEU, the cooperation with other stakeholders like the European Investment Bank. Viorel before mentioned the European Innovation Council. This is without a doubt a very significant tool when we are talking about scaling up deep tech innovation. Or the European Innovation Ecosystems Work Program, again from Horizon Europe, which is a tool that we have in our disposal for bringing in innovation actors and enhancing innovation ecosystems. Programs combined and opportunities are combined in order to touch upon neuralgic points of need, if I can say so.
That's what I meant. It's spread all over Horizon Europe and other funding systems, but you are targeting deep tech.
Deep tech, I know there's a big discussion. Why deep tech? I tried to address it at the beginning of my discussion of the presentation. Again, I want to quote what our political leader, what our commissioner said, saying that deep tech does not have only this very strong this very strong technological focus, but someone can perceive deep tech also as a mean to address societal challenges, because if we think of it in a holistic way, big range of societal challenges that we had in front of us in Europe, like energy and energy dependency, for example, has brought about significant consequences in the in every single European. And to a huge extent, the development of deep tech innovation in relation to hydrogen areas that I mentioned before, or also in biodiversity, food security, and so on, could give a very good answer to these problems, which, as I said, go to the extent of the whole society.
Thanks. I don't see any questions in the Q&A or chat. Christoph, did you have some questions or comments?
No, it's fine with me, and thanks a lot, Panagiotis, for this very dense presentation. Maybe just one comment. I mean, we see many acronyms, names, and sometimes I got the feeling it's not so easy. I mean, because most of the time, I mean, the people from the Commission just dive into that. This is our daily jobs. we are not dealing only with Europe. And so this is a personal experience as well, and I don't know if other people around the table, we are more than 110 people around the table. So I guess sometimes it's quite difficult in your day-to-day job, to get into all the vocabulary, and sometimes there are changes for the same thing. Okay, so the names change, the philosophy changes, but we are still talking about the old-fashioned tech transfer and the new fashion about knowledge, intellectual assets and knowledge valorization. So that would be a global recommendation. Let's
Christoph,
try together to remain simple.
Christoph, the Brussels jargon is awful. And I hope that higher managers in the commission are not now listening to me. But one of the worst part is that when we are when we have to use this kind of jargon, and it would be completely different um, if I knew the engagement of the stakeholders to the new European innovation agenda notion in general. But you understand that from my side, it is important to give an overview of where we stand. If we could summarize this in very simple terms, as I said, there is this need to identify the next innovation wave where we can be in front, when we can be front runners. Commission said that this deep tech sounds promising. Why? Because we have one, two, three assets. We have the scientists. We have the basis that we can work on it. So, okay, let's focus on that to see how it works. And as we were going through, we were finding out the gaps. The gaps, in simple terms, was we don't have enough money to scale up. Regulation is killing us. We cannot do anything on innovation with strict regulation. People in Finland are different than people in Greece, and they have a gap in their innovation performance. They don't understand each other. Our talents are leaving for the US, and who is going to run the business and who is going to be in the forefront if our talents are leaving to the US or elsewhere? We are good. Why everyone is leaving? And finally, okay, how can we be a bit proactive in terms of innovation? And this summarizes the 5 flagships in 1 minute discussion. Then you develop actions to if you can specify each action to every actor. I mean, that would be ideal, but with the resources that we have in our disposal, we have to allocate them to have a holistic, to the extent possible, solution to the problems. What is important to keep in mind as stakeholders, what is important, and I'm saying that to the member states, is that no matter what amounts the Commission is going to dedicate for activities, the real power stands in the member states, and perhaps that's one of the magic parts of Europe, and that's why Europe is not the US. What is important to say about the global part is that it was the first time that the Commissioner went to the Silicon Valley and said, "We are Europe, and we are good on what we are doing. Come to us." And that was a couple of days after the Silicon Valley Bank went default. I imagine that in your experience you have many times faced the difficulties from attracting people from our market to the US and leaving capable people, losing capable people. So it was the first time that, you know what, we are Europe and we are good on what we're doing. So it's our opportunity. Um, and with these initiatives, we were trying to, from our side, to support. But it was not only the commissioner there; it was stakeholders from all over Europe, from different areas, from ecosystems, VCs, and so on, saying that we are good on what we're doing. I think this is a big game and a big bet to win. It's not only about the money, but it's also about having this landscape that we want to have. And don't forget this initiative, this Regional Innovation Valleys initiative, because the success of this initiative will be very substantial for the way that Europe cooperates. This is not about regions only. A region can have the wide planning, but regions have to engage every single actor. If RTOs are not engaged in this effort, then we are losing a very, very significant actor. How can we deliver innovation without RTOs in this context? So even if you don't see specifically mentioning, you see that it's an overarching initiative.
Yes, thanks a lot for these explanations. I would like to, sorry for the repetition, because this is what I said already to Viorel. To me, the team is really central. And so you mentioned, of course, the principal investigators, scientists, but to me, what's lacking very often in Europe, in our different ecosystems, is that this success team, including scientists, probably VCs, if they create a spin-off, and knowledge technology managers are not.
A quadruple helix approach.
Yeah, but I was more precise than this. It's just triple helix is just very general, government, universities, etc. I'm talking about within universities and PROs. I mean, very often from the different funding agencies and from the European Commission, the central point is the researcher, which is fine because this is the origin. And without researcher, we don't do anything. We all agree on that. But very quickly, it must be very clear also for the researchers that they are not going to act alone. This is doomed if they are alone, okay? And not alone meaning talking to the people from the market, VCs, investors, incubators, you name it, and KT professionals. And I'm really insisting on that because I've seen many failures because of that, because of very good researchers trying to swim alone in a very complex situation and trying to deal with everything because it's exciting and because sometimes some agencies just tell them, okay, yeah, go along, you are very good and you can do that. And this is not true. Most of the time, this is not true. And simply because it's, as I said, a very complex challenge, and we need all the competences on this. And I think on the European stage, we should be more organized with a systematic approach, with at least three kind of competences working together from the very start. I mean, from the very low TRL, talking about how we are going to manage IP and transfer and licensing, and how, okay, we're going to go to the market. And that goes together from the very start of the projects.
But Christophe, I think that Viorel has mentioned it, but this is where you realize what how much important, I mean, out of the money, the notion of the European Innovation Council is. It's the first time that you have a TRL1 to TRL9 mechanism, which has which is connecting the chain. But without a doubt, what you're saying is a very important element. We are strong in research, but as I said, this scale-up gap is profound. And this is why this is also why I understand that Europe is trying to develop new methods and tools to connect all the players together. There are different mechanisms. It's always very difficult for you to say that, okay, I need this and this and this and this. There are many different mechanisms. That's one of the most difficult tasks that someone outside the Commission has, also inside the Commission, to combine the different elements and tools that are in the disposal of everyone. Because I can tell you that there are tools that have to do with interconnecting ecosystems players, bringing together what you mentioned. There are tools then that are funding innovation from research side, like the EIC, from research until TRL9. So depending on the case, you can find a different solution. This flexibility could be proved very important, and I mean, it gives you different opportunities. But on the other side, it's also very, it could be proved sometimes very difficult to manage. But the opportunities, I mean, we are improving. Of course, we are improving. Member states are always there when something is drafted and when something is presented widely. Every member state has, and every entity has put a small piece of that, and we're trying to improve it to the extent possible always.
Thank you, thanks a lot. Well, we are right in time, which is amazing. Congrats to everybody. So I think we can slowly, Smilka, go to the conclusion of this very interesting morning. So thanks.
Yes, we just have another comment here. I think it's referring to you, Christoph. I would argue that the TTO role is scaling up and translation development is like the catalyst of the innovation. Please, PIs are key, but to increase success and reduce risks of failure, you need to engage TTO team to guide and lead the transformation. Oh, okay. Thanks, Isara. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the forum. I would like to thank all the speakers today and hope that the whole audience actually learned about new and interesting activities ongoing within the European Commission. As I see, there are no more questions, so I'd like to thank you, the presenters again, as well as the participants. We are really happy that this event became a good way to exchange ideas and to hear firsthand about what is going on in Europe and European bodies relevant to our TT community. We've heard about the codes of practice from Yanis. We heard also about the new developments there. Laura informed us about the study that showed how so-called basic science can generate results that are possible to develop, protect, and commercialize. Actually, excellent science, as I already mentioned, is the main driver of the innovation in Europe, and countries that are aware of that and invest more into research and are most successful in innovation, as we all know. We already explained also this connection between our need for technology transfer professionals in a development of EAC and innovation to be forwarded further. We also learned a lot now about the new European innovation agenda and the story behind it and relevance of it for to let's say catch up with America, with US and the other developed countries. So you already heard that we ASTP represent a large community of TT professionals from all over Europe and beyond, and wish to take these messages even further, which we are able through our large number of members and TT offices and networks that are our members. We think that ASTP-EU Forum is an important meeting point where we can hear more about the recent activities and progresses within the EU and European Commission. We already have, as I mentioned several times, good collaboration with these parts of the European Commission, and we would like to continue this collaboration with all of you that participated today and your departments, and develop this for the benefit of all stakeholders, technology transfer professionals, researchers, economy, and the whole society. I'd like to draw your attention to our EU newsletter that was already mentioned by Christoph in the beginning. We are publishing that on the ASTP website. There you can learn more about our activities on the EU matters. We also have an EU committee that is very much engaged with EU stuff, and we are collaborating the whole year with the units, as I already said. So if you have some suggestions or comments, feel free to post them in a chat or send them through your email to headquarters, and I hope they are in chat. The link to the newsletter and also the email address. It's actually the headquarter email address for ASTP. So if you have any suggestions on how we could even improve this collaboration with Europe, you are very welcome to do so. Most of you are our members, so we are counting on you. But even if you want to become ones or you are not, we are open for all the good comments and suggestions. So thank you all, and I hope that we see you in November on our next EU forum. Unless Christoph, if you would like to add something here, I would like to close the session after that.
I take just 2 minutes. I think nobody will complain if we finish 20 minutes before lunch. That's fine. Just a big thank you to all the participants and all the speakers, of course. I think this is really important to see that it's not only the Commission coming to explain what they want to do, but really this two ways exchange and discussion. So I really feel that this expectation from the European Commission to hear from us and to also to explain what kind of support we can bring to the Commission. Because at the end of the day, the Commission is basically using our money to provide new activities and new support to our activities. Okay, so we are all in the same boat, I would say, in French way. And I think we were thinking about, we were considering maybe organizing a face-to-face Europe forum one day. So this is not ready, but this is an idea, and your feedback is welcome, of course, on this. We all know about the difficulties of meeting and traveling and everything, but of course, the face-to-face meetings bring much more value. But anyway, thanks a lot. I think we were almost 120 people this morning. So congrats for being there and for bringing the questions and your inputs. And again, thanks a lot for to the organization, to Smilka, our VP, and our Europe team at the ASTP, our Europe committee. So thanks a lot, and have a very nice day, and talk to you soon.